Very cool.
Oh, I'm still muted. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
We were just like, I guess we're going live and not doing stuff.
Yeah, we are going live. I am fixing the display settings right now. Can somebody? Okay, cool. I'm not crazy. For a second there, I think the size of the screen was like a quarter. Somebody threw a quarter at the screen. It sure did say transistor. Well, let's make sure everybody sounds okay while we're getting everything set up. I apologize for all the backstage stuff, but for some reason Transistor does not want to play nice with game capture, so we're doing. Yeah, we're gonna have lots of fun dragging and dropping today. David Morgan, could you quickly talk for me?
Hello.
All right.
Hi, sorry. I'm eating Noodon noodles right now, so.
Awesome. Now I got David. David's good. Okay, that's all that matters. All right. Now Morgan's also good.
It's very, very, very quiet.
Is the whole stream?
I didn't say very, very quiet, but it's quiet. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. What
like
the fuck?
Your audio is.
Like on Twitch right now.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yep.
My levels look fine.
On
Stream
Discord,
be my witness.
On Discord, you're a hell of a lot louder than you are. And like I have you at 100 on Discord.
Apparently that might be a you problem.
I don't know.
because Hard Cell says I sound
problem.
fine. Yeah. You should check your levels.
I'm
David.
hard of hearing, so.
Oh well, now I feel bad. Thanks.
No, you're fine. I'm also I'm using a weird headset today, so.
All right. Well. So welcome back to Coffee Break. God, what is this weird resolution we keep going into? Welcome back to Coffee Break, where we play consistent games for once. My name is Ren. I'm a master's student at UWM. I'm joined by...
I am Morgan Forbush. I am a master's student in anthropology at UWM.
I'm David Kutchik. I am a PhD student at UWM in the English department. I'm having some lovely udon noodle with shrimp from Nana next door. So.
Hell yeah.
Or Nana.
If anybody sounds quiet or there's any audio issues, please stream tell us. But, you know, so we're here. We finished Bastion. Eventually I'll write a blog post about that. And now we're going to do Transistor. And, you know, I know David really likes Transistor. I really like Transistor. But God, it has been forever since I played this game. Like, I think the last time I played it was on my old laptop, which is why it keeps force loading in a weird resolution. I also need to set the music volume low so I don't overpower anybody. So I'm going to, like, turn the sound effects and music volume low. Other than that, what was I gonna say? Would somebody like to read the land acknowledgement before we get started?
Sure, I can do that.
And now you can do it with the fancy new bot command.
And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna go
to the pins. You're just gonna go to the pins.
Go to the pins.
All right.
All right. In Milwaukee, we acknowledge that we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigami, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.
Woo! Awesome. Let's get started. All right, so I'm just going to boot an empty profile up, and we're going to go from here. Now, as usual, I'm going to try to do as much of the game as possible. What I will say is that the limiters in this game are way harder than the stuff in than the sort of stuff that we experienced in Bastion. Also, I'm realizing now the game audio has decided to go very loud.
Hey, Red.
Oh, well, apparently me pressing the Windows key counts as a button press to this game, so hold on. All right, hold on. I'm gonna boost Morgan up so we don't have that issue. And then I'm going to go back to the game and see if I can get the odd.
We're not gonna get away with this, are we?
There we go. Why the fuck did the... Yeah, it's put the music volume back up to max when I started a new profile. I love all... And it turned off subtitles. What? Oh, well, I guess they probably have it set so that your settings are profile dependent.
Probably. Although it's interesting that they have profiles on a PC game.
Yeah, I know. Here we go. Oh, right. One more thing. Let me tab out of this one more time. There you go, guys. Now you're good.
That Discord stream.
God damn it, now I gotta fix it again. The resolution.
Whoopsie.
The resolution. Okay, I think it's good on the stream now. All right, here we go. All right, so they really do just kind of drop you in. Although, have you guys both played Transistor before?
No.
All right, I know David has.
Yes, I have.
Cool. All right, so context. The only amount of context I'm going to give. Basically, we know that this guy got hit with the transistor. Now the transistor is talking to us. That's it.
Aye.
And there's this person carrying the sword, which is the transistor, I think, right?
Yes. This is the transistor. And so this game also has a little bit more gameplay depth than the previous game. You may notice that it's pretty hard to attack in real time here. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, the sword is heavy.
It's heavy.
Takes a while.
And Red is not like in a position where she is like used to carrying around a giant ass weapon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll see why later.
Here we go. Thank God they just put you right into the planning mode. I can't imagine if they made you do part of the game in standard. So as you can see,
This is kind of the new element of compared to Bastion, right?
yes. So Bastion, of course, is kind of just a real-time action game, isometric kind of action game. But the trick of Transistor is that it is not just a kind of action game. It is also a what they called on release both turn-based and real-time. What that actually turns out to mean is essentially just you can walk around in real time, and then you have to plan your moves in turn-based strategy. And you just have a certain amount of energy that you expend as you're kind of moving through, everything else.
Yeah, and you can choose not to do that.
Yeah.
But it makes it a lot easier if you do.
Yeah. Also, it's pretty much the only game that I have on my computer that I play with the numpad and ASDF because, WASD, because like it's so hard to play this game on PC when you have to League of Legends it basically.
If I remember, I think I used a controller for this, but I played it so long ago, I don't really remember.
I would recommend using a controller. And it is very noir, as Hardcell points out. But like a neo-noir.
We're on the edge of town, 100 blocks away.
It's a very sensual game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Now, as I recall, the Transistor's voice is just Darren again, right? I'm almost certain he did the voice acting for that as well.
Hardcell asks, are you planning on streaming Eastward?
I would love to stream Eastward, honestly. It would not be like a bad thing to do at all. You guys know about Eastward?
I've seen the little bits and pieces.
Oh, it looks so good. It looks like incredible. Hard Cell pointed the game out to me a while ago, like back when it was first announced. And over the years, I've gotten just more and more excited about it as I've gotten more and more into, like, you know, Earthbound style games.
Oh, it's like one of those. This is a spiritual successor to Earthbound.
I wouldn't say like in terms of tone and world, not in terms of like we don't know much else, you know.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so here we go. Now we've learned that, interestingly, when we approach people who have been affected by this weird enemy we're fighting, we can add new abilities to the transistor. And now we have this one, which is called Spark.
Ooh, fun.
I want to like point out that, you know, obviously a lot of this world is like in a kind of an Art Nouveau, but it's also, you know, it's not just in an Art Nouveau, it also has things like these breakpoints, which kind of, you know, look like access points to terminals in certain ways. So you've got this weird kind of mix of Art Nouveau and what we would kind of refer to as like, I don't know, like a sci-fi kind of programming space.
It's rad.
I'm not sure how much the stream can enjoy the audio of these like moments because of one, the voice is like very husky and subtle, and you also have like us talking over it, but this game's audio is incredibly important to like, it's like, you know, it's like Silent Hill in that way. It'd be really hard to play Silent Hill without listening to the audio.
Can't play Silent Hill on silent?
Yeah, you can't play Silent Hill on silent. I'm sorry. Sorry to report. I may ask for your help eventually with some of these because these combat sequences are kind of like puzzles in certain ways.
Yeah. Which I would say makes it less of a... I mean, it is kind of turn-based, but I would say it's more like puzzle combat in a way, rather than turn-based.
Yeah, maybe that's where we should start our little discussion is like, I mean, obviously Morgan, as you see more of the gameplay, but like, how would you classify this game? You know? Like, does it live up to the real-time turn-based kind of hype?
It's kind of like a mix between the two, but also if you think like, obviously genre is socially constructed, so we can just say that and say like, well, it doesn't really matter, but also it kind of does, right? Because that's how branding goes and all that stuff. I mean, I would say, because what would you, so Ren, because this studio is known as the company that made Bastion, right? So when they made Transistor, people are like, oh, it's the same group that made Bastion, Supergiant. So what would you clarify, or what would you qualify Bastion as?
Like I said, I think I kind of treat it as like an isometric action adventure game. Kind of in the same way you would like I would call it a brawler if I had to call it something. Not in like the sort of, you know, way that we think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a brawler, but like in the sense of like a spiritual successor to an arcade brawler, you know, style of gameplay.
Would you say it's real time?
Yeah, I would call Bastion real time.
So I would call this real time, but I like the idea of maybe having puzzle in there too.
I totally can understand that. I'm not really sure what like a between real time and turn-based combat system would look like. I mean, certainly this is one way of imagining it, but like I'm not really sure. Like that's kind of a complicated relationship right there.
Yeah.
Hard Cell says, big woman with big sword crashes into young lady. More news at 11. Very funny. Bastion has gameplay similar to dungeon crawlers such as Diablo and Grim Dawn. I can see that too. What were you saying, Morgan?
I don't know, when you said real-time turn-based, I thought of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Because Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, everything moves on a turn, even if you can't see it. So if you're moving around a dungeon, you can see things going on your, like, after you. but they move on a turn. So you're running around in real time, but everything is on a turn. You know? I don't know if that makes any sense. You guys ever played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So everything is moving on a turn, but you're doing things in real time. And then when things actually get dicey is when creatures are faster than you and they can smack you. So.
Alright, so we now have Jaunt, by the way, which is like a critical skill. God, okay. Whew, I might get a controller for this, honestly. I should be careful about this too, because this thing can fuck me up. So let's do that, and then we'll Jaunt. Oh, I remember how I play this now. Okay.
I do think it is kind of interesting how, sorry, this is going a little bit away from the genre discussion, but it is a little interesting how, you know, you have a woman who is, like, obviously, she's, like, carrying this large sword, and seems to be more naturally inclined to, like, lighter move in combat, you know, like, faster movements or that kind of thing. So it's interesting to how your, like, first couple of special moves or whatever you want to call it down at the bottom, right, are really heavy, and then as you continue throughout the game, they get lighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems to be like more inclined, and like as you get lighter and faster and quicker moves, that's what the character seems more inclined, and like those are your better moves, right? And so I think it's interesting how it kind of like reverses the logic of a lot of video game upgrading systems, where like you have lighter and therefore like less damaging moves at the beginning of the game, and then as you go further along, you get like heavier weapons or heavier skills, right? And this is kind of doing the opposite, where like your ability to move about the space is actually much more impactful than having like quote unquote heavy moves. I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting. You're right. I think there's a bit of a reversal there. But like, it's important to also note that there's no such thing in. Well, there may be one thing in Bastion that I would define as a bad protocol. You know, every one of these moves are called functions. This is the upgrade menu. You will get all the functions eventually, but we get to choose which one we get. And this is the first time I think in the game that it actually announces the thing that we're talking about right now, which is the upgrade slot effects. You can slap a function, you can nest a function inside another function in in Transistor, and change the nature of the original function that you have. It's kind of the same system that you will later see in Hades when you have like a set of core abilities, and then those abilities are continually modified by picking up new stuff. A lot of this is like Road to Hades, watch how Supergiant designs games. I'm going to take Bounce because I really like Bounce a lot.
I love Bounce too.
But
Bounce
like,
is my favorite.
There's nothing in this game. Like, I would not say there's a single function in this game that is bad. There is like an optimal playstyle at the end, but like that's only if you're trying to play at like the highest level. Then, okay, yeah, you know. So this is the upgrade menu. You'll notice we have memory here, which just says basically how many functions can you slot. And we'll get to upgrade our memory over time. The other thing we get to do is we can upgrade one of our functions with Bounce. I am going to put it, and it'll tell you roughly what happens when you do so. Number of jumps, jump range, jump damage reduced. It's a very, very technical game in that way. But it's hard to like, I'm kind of the person that I can read an upgrade, but I won't really know what it does until I try it. So this is going to be a lot of me trying functions to see what happens, you know? But let's for now put it on crash. And then we can up and uninstall or reinstall upgrades at any time at any of these locations. So like I'm getting rid of Spark from my main lineup, and I'm going to do the thing that I enjoy doing the most, which is, hold on, let me install it here. And then what I want to do is I want to go back, I want to go to Spark, I want to select that and install it as an upgrade on Jaunt. And we can try any of these that you guys want to see tried, but this is what an upgraded Jaunt looks like this. Well, not that. Now I have cover if I dash somewhere.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah, so this is like the cool ass way of you know, improving upon the systems from the previous game. You don't just get weapons and weapon upgrades that do like flat kind of damage numbers now. Now they have like a notable you know, effect on your gameplay. Also, the process will also upgrade itself over time, which is not fun. The process are really deadly enemies, honestly. You'll notice now that Crash chains across different enemies. And that's what bounce, I guess, is doing to it. And then I can do this. I don't know if I want to keep bounce on Crash, to be honest. We can play around with stuff and see what we want. But you also have to pay attention, much like a card game, to like the cost of the different things that you're doing, because you'll notice they cost time on top, but also, you know, you want to have like options when you're playing the game. You want to have cheap skills and expensive skills. So we're really getting into like a lot of micromanagement that Bastion never had or cared about, you know? Whew. So yeah, I mean, it's a very different game. I'm not sure, like, obviously they did a good job of signaling that this wouldn't just be like Bastion 2 when it came out, or at least that's what I recall. But like it, you know, it's a very different game, like to the point where I wonder if some people just felt completely out of sorts trying to pick it up, you know? All right, let's not do that. You also notice that backstabs give me more damage.
Which is also why movement is so important, because obviously your enemies are going to be mostly fighting you from the front, so you want to use that, you know, your abilities to get behind your enemy.
And they respawn in a certain amount of time too, so you want to like, you don't want to let them respawn. So you've got a lot to manage on the battlefield at any given point in time. Yeah, I mean, I've never played. I mean, like, I know Final Fantasy 13. I played like a little bit of it in like my uncle's Xbox forever ago, but like I don't actually remember it that much. So does anyone in VC right now played 13?
That's a negatory.
Yeah, no, I haven't played any. I played a little bit of Final Fantasy 4, and that's about it.
Let's try bounce on R2 here. I'm pretty sure that chains the breach protocol, which is incredible because breach is like does some insane damage. All right, so here we are, end of the first act.
Okay, E64 armor. 5 blocks down. Take the second right.
It's also a very different environment from Bastion.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
about as different as you could get.
And the way they're
Which is
doing...
also a good symbol to other, you know, previous players of Bastion. They're like, yeah, this is gonna be different because like the setting is completely different.
Yeah, I want to point out that even though this cutscene looks like I can't interact on it, I can turn on the boost on the bike.
Yep.
It just gives this beautiful light trail and increases the wind effect. It's just perfect.
What do they call it? Parallax?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, this is parallax. It's like, it's not parallax in like the traditional use case of it, but yeah, you've got 3 layers and they're all scrolling at different rates. And that gives the illusion of the bike moving. Although I'm pretty sure when I push the boost, it is actually like moving the bike back and forth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that they can create that kind of effect of the weight of the motorcycle by doing that kind of simple animation trick with stills. Oh yeah.
Poor bike. Just 10 more blocks to the set.
What was the other thing I was gonna say? And it's also interesting, like as we're eventually probably talking more about the art, like artistic meanings that exist in this game. That this game is about a set of corporate executives that took the voice of a solo performer. You know.
And also kind of destroyed the city.
And well, yeah, but well, look, the apocalypse thing that keeps coming up in all of Supergiant's games is it's its own thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're game 2 and we're back to the apocalypse again. You know?
Well, I think a lot of things. What is the best way to put stakes in video games especially in our current zeitgeist of the last decade, is apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do you want stakes in your game? Make it the apocalypse. Or if you want to make it like meaningful, like, oh, why did the world get destroyed, sort of thing. Like, there's been a lot of in our current zeitgeist of, well, how did this happen? Like, how did we get here? What is the world? Why is the world like it is? Like, a lot of reflecting on that kind of thing, and I think these games reflect that need. And you see other games like that too. Like, I'm trying to think, but I can't think of any right now. But you go, why is this world destroyed? You have to go and figure it out. There's a lot of games like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like, when did this game come out? This was... I don't remember the exact date when they released this, actually, come to think of it.
Let's see, Transistor release date.
I think early 2010s.
Early 2010s, so yeah.
2014.
2014. So yeah, I mean, not too far out from the as you know, Hardsell points out, the kind of Great Recession period.
Yes, the recession, totally. Well, because Bastion came out even before then, and Bastion definitely, it's like everything. The recession really kind of just made everything bad. Like, you see a lot of the. He just made it's so like. Well, because he lost. I don't know. Recession is such a big loss of faith in the system. Like, you saw how like the Great Depression happened, and you had people hiding things in banks or cheering on bank robbers because they had lost so much faith in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Richard Nixon, people lost faith in the government. And with the recession, people again lost faith in the stock market and banks. And so you see a lot of the defeatism of, well, if we can't trust these big institutions, who can we trust?
Yeah, well, we can trust the pizza. What pizza do we want? From Junction Jan's.
Harvest Garden. That
You want
sounds
Harvest
yummy.
Garden.
I would do Mystery Jan's just to see what it is.
Or Mystery Jams, that works too.
Pineapple. I don't know which one's pineapple. We'll go with Mystery Jan's.
Probably a sea monster would be the pineapple.
So, you know, it's interesting actually to kind of bring up that sort of stuff as well with these games, because Bastion and Transistor are not so defeatist about, you know, society, that they like are at a point where, you know, as games they have zero hope for humanity. Obviously, at the end of Bastion, you are given the choice to just choose to move on from everything and you know, make your own way in the new world. And I think that, like, while certainly Bastion doesn't have any hope for institutions getting a second chance in that game, like Celandia, they do have some hope for individual people, you know, making their way after the apocalypse. And a lot of the other stuff in Bastion, a lot of the great storytelling occurs in these individual character interactions over different mementos you pick up. And Transistor kind of carries that through, because, like, we're in the middle of, like, you know, a pretty important thing, and we're just able to order pizza. And I think that's more than just a gag, per se, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's always the little small comforts in life. Just buying pizza, or
Does
going to
Bastion-
your favorite restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely. Does Bastion really have the same ending as Wind Waker?
It's better than Wind Waker, that's for sure.
Well, now you've got me curious. So here we go. So now we get another piece of interesting stuff in the game, and that is now we can see information about the functions we picked up. So clearly much like the Bastion was some sort of like mechanism by which to, you know, save humanity and move them on, the Transistor stores data about people. Also, hold on, actually, this is a really important question I had not thought about. Wasn't 2014 the same year, or like right after the big NSA is spying on you reveals in Congress? Like the big expose slash
Oh, like the Edward Snowden stuff?
yeah. Yeah, weren't we
I had
like
no
right
idea.
there?
Let me take a little look-see.
To be honest, I was graduating high school and couldn't care less.
I'm pretty sure that was when all of that shit came to a head. And I mean, you know, obviously, if it was exactly in 2014, I doubt it influenced the development of the game. But if it was in like 2013, 2012, and carried into 14, then like, yeah, I mean, surveillance state and panopticism runs through this deep.
Yeah, Citizen 4, which was like the documentary-ish kind of thing about him, was in 2014.
2014. So yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible that it's not just the recession, but also surveillance that suddenly, you know, comes in and takes some.
I would slightly argue that, I don't know, from a perception, not knowing when Snowden happened, I kind of, after, there was always an understanding that people were looking at us and watching us and things, and like monitoring activities. I don't know. I just feel like that was always a thing. But yes. But
no, I agree, like, from our perspective that's true. I'm not sure that from, like, the older generation's perspective that's true, you know?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Also, interestingly, Breach, though belonging to the person who's now inside the Transistor, we know nothing about him. Or at least, you know, the Transistor doesn't, and Red can't talk to us. So basically, this whole thing, when you slot these in different locations, then you get different information about their backgrounds, and it tells you a lot of interesting stuff. The reason that this group wanted to put this person in the Transistor, their entrance skills, gender, age. It shows them the details of the effects, stuff like that. And, you know, our Transistor guy apparently knows enough about the town to kind of know a little bit about every single one of these people. But, you know, it's an interesting thing that all of this stuff is kind of put in here. And I wish we had time on stream to actively read through all of that. But, you know, actually, yeah, could somebody get rid of the 4Z mic post from chat?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
Sorry, I got a little distracted.
No, it's fine. There's a lot going on. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I just want to point out that, like, this is here. They're all really interesting. They're super good to read. We will be unlocking all of them because I said we're going to do this as big 100% as we can. We really don't have time to stop and read about everybody, though, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, read it on your own time. Go to the wiki. Trust me, it's all worth it.
Weird, it won't let me moderate right now.
What?
How do I moderate?
Oh, you're not a moderator for some reason.
Weird.
Let
I must have been
me-
taken off the mod list.
Yeah, I must have taken you off the mod list and then you didn't respond. I'll fix that later. Morgan, or do you have mod privileges?
I may have mod privileges, but I don't know how to use them.
Fair. I think I have mod privileges. Hold on, let me see if I can mod this guy out.
I have mod.
Yeah, I'll ban him.
You overestimate my knowledge of.
Easy peasy. He's banned. All right, so let's get going. Actually, let me try something else. Let's put bounce on Jaunt and see what happens there, because I haven't done that. Yeah. Let's put spark on breach. We'll change things up every time we we move in here. Actually, let's put it on crash. And then we'll take bounce and put it on Jaunt. See if we like that. Woo! All right. If you see me ever go into the turn-based mode, no, it's just because I'm fat fingering my spacebar. All right. Oh boy. Interestingly, the Transistor also, from a rhetorical standpoint, tells you when you're going to, like, do more damage than you absolutely have to. Which I find interesting, you know?
Yeah.
That's not really how weapons tend to work in games. They tend to advocate, in some ways, you know, you to do as much damage as possible.
Yep.
I think the one thing I'm not so certain about here is whether it is you know, a question of mercy or a question of like what is or isn't, you know, like essentially efficient. I would lean towards saying it's a question of efficiency, you know? Obviously, from a from a mechanical standpoint, that makes sense because you don't want players like, you know, being mad because they don't realize that they've put too much effort into something that they don't need to put effort into, as far as like putting damage into an enemy. But they also just, you know, I also think it's interesting because, you know, I think it says something about the people who designed the transistor. Maybe it just says that they're engineers. I don't know.
Well, it's also like it kind of lends credence to the computer program. Computer programs are always like, oh, this is X efficiency, and that's a trope. I want to say it's a trope that leans like, oh, this is AI computer. It likes efficiency, and it leans into that trope to kind of sell it.
Yeah, 100%. Do you guys want me to take load or switch?
Explosive. I like switch.
I also like switch. I find load to be like Marin Karen levels of shit. I know they said there's no bad function, but there's always Marin Karen. What do you think, Morgan?
I don't care.
You don't care?
If you guys say that one's better, go for it.
I mean, it's just who doesn't like Michael? Let me upgrade my weapon to be more like Michael Bay. All right, so I'm not really sure what. Oh, okay. So bounce on jaunt makes it usable during recovery turn. That's really useful, but not. How do I put this? I don't know if it's useful. I guess it is probably the best place to put it right now. I mean, we can keep trying other stuff, but I do think that makes a lot of sense. And since we're doing it that way, let's install Spark into slot 4, and then let's take load and put that on Spark, because that'll be dumb and funny.
Big explosions.
Yeah, I bet this will be really cool. Oh yeah, I'd say that's pretty cool. You may notice that I am overwhelmed, and that is because, my god, there is actually a lot going on in this game as far as like figuring out your weapons and upgrades and stuff.
It's the kind of game that I would look up like best builds for like the first, I don't know, like first playthrough, and then the second playthrough, and I make decisions. But
Oh boy, I didn't expect this guy.
it's a jerk. Jerk 2.0. He's been upgraded.
Ooh.
Yeah, he came right through the wall. Alright, alright. Oh boy, here we go. Yeah, you can see how having jaunt in this time is really helpful. Yeah. Because it means I can, like, actually kite this guy around a little bit. Oh boy. Oh god, that's a lot of damage. Ooh, that's not good. It also tells you when you're being blocked by something, which is good because otherwise sometimes the battlefield can be kind of hard to read like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for full overkill here.
I love how it said, do you even read, when you had so much overkill.
Did it really? I didn't notice.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Alright, and now we can just jaunt over here, and then... Interestingly, the using the transistor to jaunt is more efficient in terms of time usage, or meter usage, I guess I should say, than walking. So, you know,
Jaunt
whatever
is
that
so
says.
nice.
Jaunt is the best. Is Jaunt the Dark Souls of dodge rolls? Yeah, well, it's that, but without iframes. I can be hit at any point in time during the jaunt. Which is why it's still possible to get, like, slammed into a wall or something while you're jaunting.
While you're jaunting about, you can get bopped.
Yeah, but it is, like, easily, I think, one of the most important abilities in the game, if not the most important.
Oh, it's the most important, I think.
Yeah. I can't imagine
Because
playing the game
movement is
without
so
it.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
movement is so important in the game.
So we can also choose to comment on news briefs. Not that it does anything for us, but you know, it's kind of an interesting. That particular part is kind of an interesting thing because it shows in a lot of ways, you know, some attempt to communicate by Red, but like the social media that this world uses is like actively kind of just a one-sided thing. It's very, I don't want to say totalitarian, but certainly like very like it's a part of the game that if you're not thinking about it from a commentary perspective, you'd be like, why the fuck is this here? You know?
Yeah.
It does allow Red the ability to communicate with the player, so there's kind of a metaleptic element to it, but certainly it's like a rhetorical metalepsis, not like something that, you know, is diegetically passing boundaries in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me 1 second, guys.
Oh,
No worries.
Yeah, sorry, Amberly jumped in, needed something about a work thing.
No worries.
gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I think like in retrospect, I would love to see them attempt to like do something like this again. I really am interested, you know, maybe this is just me seeing them very recently post on the Supergiant Twitter, hey, by the way, you know, it's the anniversary of Bastion, but like, what would you think of a Supergiant doing something like a second game in a series, you know?
I mean, I don't have as much aversion to sequels and series as some people do, just because I grew up playing Nintendo, which is almost, you know, a lot of just series and sequels with similar game mechanics, but even more perfected. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem. But I do think with Supergiant, usually you want to have something like the mood, the tone is so important in Supergiant games, and all of their games have such different moods and tones, while still being like somewhat similar enough and still having like a somewhat similar idea of where like you can tell, yep, this is a Supergiant game. So I think if they were to make a sequel, I wouldn't want it to be more of the same. I could see it being like a similar game mechanic or a similar, like say they do Transistor 2.0, which would be a actually appropriate way to label the game.
Yeah,
or they could do like, or even 1.1. I think that'd be even better. But like I like the idea of combining skills and that kind of thing with it, but it would have to be, I think, for me to be really fulfilled by it, it would have to be something different. Like it could still be the same world, but maybe in a different area, or like the character relationship is different. Like maybe Red's the narrator next time, right? Or something like that. I don't know, but I would want it to be something a little different than just the same thing over again, just in a different gut up, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of what I feel like Supergiant's thing is, just making good standalone games. But I feel like if they did a sequel, it would I don't think a sequel, like a story sequel, maybe, but a mechanical sequel, be like, this is pretty much Transistor gameplay, and it is also sci-fi, but it's not Transistor. Kind of similar to that, I think would be a good middle ground. If people are like, oh, don't make a sequel, they're like, well, here's the system. We made it a little bit better. Here's the system. It's in a different world, though.
Yeah.
Kind of same thematically, like spiritual successor. That's kind of what I'm saying, rather than a straight sequel.
Yeah, I mean, Transistor basically, if you want to call it spiritual successor, it basically is to Bastion, right?
Yeah.
Just like how right, if we think of Hollow Knight as like a Castlevania or a Metroidvania, right? It's kind of a spiritual successor, but it'd be like, oh, like I wouldn't be surprised to see, like, the games are just similar enough to where you're like, okay, it's got the same base to it, but you're adding different accoutrements on it, right? So like, I feel like in a way their games almost are kind of like sequels.
Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly go to
They're
the
different
Guillermo
enough where
del
they aren't.
Toro school of storytelling. You know, you have
Yeah.
one story and you tell it over and over again, but damn, it's a good story. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Hades does get out of like the apocalyptic one.
Yes, it certainly does that. I would say. God, that was
They
some
definitely
overkill.
have a design ethos for the company.
I just mean like this mechanical system, like certainly Bastion. I mean Bastion's maybe the easiest game to like write, as Hardzel points out. It is very difficult to write a sequel to a Supergiant game, but you know, Bastion's maybe the one that's most primed for a sequel. If you know you count the second ending as canon, which in all honesty, I mean, that's debatable since there are, you know, unique voice lines for Rux when you do the world over again and everything goes back to being shit. But you know, how do I put this? This gameplay, I really love the concepts that are presented here, but I always felt like in execution it was always a bit clunky. And certainly, you know, yeah, and Hades does certain things that are very similar in terms of like how skills are customized, you know, but I would be interested in seeing them attempt this again and kind of see what happens, I feel.
Yeah, and I feel like going back to their first games, because they're like, oh, it's the anniversary, going back with their current knowledge and being like, well, we're gonna make kind of Bastion 2.0 or Transistor 2.0 with all of the knowledge that we gained at the studio with Hades. I think that would really, it would be like, well, it's a sequel, but also it's just a generally great game because of all the stuff that we picked up along the way.
Yes, they're like
Like
art
a full
design.
circle. A full circle.
Yeah, their art design is fairly future-proofed, like just because of the way that they've handled, you know. Well, you know, we do isometric hand-drawn stuff with a few free 3D models here and there that you know are small enough scale that imperfections on them you're not really gonna see. But like, I will say I think Hades looks a lot crisper, especially in the lighting department, than this game does.
Oh,
And part of that's because this game is trying to use a lot of diffuse light and fog effects and stuff like that. But like,
It
God,
definitely wants the neon sort of haze.
yeah, but God, I would kill to see them just do like a graphical touch-up on some of these, like change the lighting engine out, you know, play with the color grading a little bit. Like, man,
Make it crisper.
yeah. It'd be a really nice little touch of polish on this stuff, and not that it needs it, but like, you know, I feel like the first episode in all of these games, in terms of playing them on stream, is like, let's talk about the kind of obvious stuff that's going on in this. And I will say also that this game leans on 3D graphics more than Bastion does, and it handles its kind of isometrics in a different way. You know, like, it's not that Bastion, how do I put this? The level design is in Bastion is minimal per se. Like, obviously it's because the world is rising up to meet you, and you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there and all that. But the scale of Bastion's world is told a lot by its skyboxes, whereas in this it's like this dense set of layered drawn world spaces. I don't think I'm wrong to like point out that I feel like the verticality in this world is way more depthful than Bastion's is. It just feels like they've polished the way they've handled perspective and depth here in a way that they didn't have in the first game.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. This set piece is fantastic.
When I first saw you on that stage back then, it was like,
Beautiful.
Look at that.
Also, I mean, you know, can have like a whole day where we just talk about Darren Korb's composition, but like, man. All right, here we go. Cutscene time.
Cutscene.
Finally get the backstory.
When you speak, I hear silence. Every word a defiance. I can hear, oh, I can hear. Think I'll go where it suits me. Moving now to the country with everyone, oh everyone, before we all become one.
So the other thing that they've done. Oh, wait 1 second, because the voice acting here is really good.
she's a girl. Oh, what? Hey. Thank you. Oh. Look at you. Hey, say something already. Say something, will you? Oh, no.
But this game opts for storytelling with its cutscenes in a way Bastion didn't. Bastion obviously had cutscenes, but they were mostly there for, you know, they were mostly there so that you would, you know, have a visual to go with the narration you were getting. Whereas here, the cutscene itself visually tells you a hell of a lot more than sometimes what's being said does, you know?
Definitely.
So let's talk to Sybil. All right, so now this is our first boss fight, and this will probably be the last thing we do for the game today.
All right.
So this is the first of that group from the cutscene that we saw.
Flying in circles.
To disable these messages, cease using turn.
That's hilarious. Where are these messages popping up? Because I just don't see them. Oh, is it on the info?
It's that little blue one. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
And then the other one where it says, "Can you not read?" That was when you were overkilling one of the really like the skinny white tendril thingies, and it was just like you were exploding so many times that it said on the turn, where it says like the damage counter, it said like, "Can you not read?"
That's hilarious. I love that. Thanks, game designers. Thanks for ridiculing me actively in the game. I just love it. There we go. I think that should kill
I
it.
love it.
So I'm
like
using
games that don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, me too. I feel like when you're like more than any other medium, games like thrive on self-reflexivity.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
that's
the
just
idea of
sorry.
the idea of, oh, you are playing a game. Congratulations, it's the game. The meta narrative is always somewhat there.
Yeah. almost there.
Yep. I can't remember if she's 3 phases or 2 phases.
I don't remember.
Also, notice that this is the first part of the game where, you know, Red's music is playing while we're fighting something. Yep, she's 3 phases.
Wait.
Let's just take that guy out then and get out of here.
Bam. Bam.
Probably still have enough health bar for this if I'm lucky. Okay, this is gonna be tough. Probably I hit him once and just get out.
Nice.
Yep, we're gonna play this super safe now. Oh boy. Oh boy. No, 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 no. They can really catch up to you. Like, hiding is really not an option.
Yeah, the creeps get around pretty quickly.
Yeah, they are.
He's faster than Sybil, so I'd get rid of him first.
Yeah. Alright, now I see my... Oh, there we go. Right. I forgot you don't die in this game if you lose meter. So we're actually safer than I thought.
Oh yeah, you just lose your
You lose your functions.
skill.
Which is fine. I'm still getting back to used to playing this game again. Because I'm usually pretty good with Supergiant games, but it always takes me a bit to get back into the flow of whatever they've made.
Yeah, because they're just different enough where, like, you have to rethink the game system.
Yep. In Bastion, you can put something between you and an enemy, and for the most part, that will stop the enemy from fucking with you. That is not the case here. There we go. Now we want to grab all these cells. Yeah, this is pretty brutal.
Yeah, just like flailing on the floor.
Yep. I can, like, I think I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah, because she had 1 HP left.
Yep. And there you go. First boss fight. Another function in the transistor, which gives us help, which is honestly a fantastic function. I almost never use it, but it is like dumb good.
It's really nice.
And we also have authentication now for backdoors, which is fantastic. I mean, let's see, we gotta find another save point quickly. So we'll get out of here, but yeah. Here we go, here's an access point. Perfect. So yes, we now have that. We can also, when you overload a function, you get it back based on how many access points you get to. So the goal is don't overload your functions. Bad idea. And you do that by perfecting your build, you know? But the nice thing is it doesn't overload functions that are slotted in as attachments, so you are able to, you know, still kind of work with it.
Civil Rise. Life of the party. She was bad news from the first.
So yeah, I mean, and obviously you can kind of, you know, continue to do whatever you add it to things, see what happens. Anyway, we'll stop here for now, I think. You know, it's 12:13. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of many episodes where we play through Transistor. You may think that we've been through a quarter of the game already. I can assure you that is not the case. I don't remember exactly how long the game is, but we've got a nice long way to go. We're basically through the tutorial. I would say.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. So
I would agree.
You know, we got to talk about limiters. That'll be fun when those come up from a gameplay perspective. There's the backdoor, which has kind of the same challenge modes that you got in Bastion, that you saw me screaming about, and those require some savvy kind of gameplay. And then the final boss is like actively disgustingly difficult.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I remember that being a nightmare.
Even without limiters, if you have not built your transistor properly, you are fucked. Like, the best thing, like, the first half of the game is gonna be me trying to pick things that I like, and then when we start adding limiters, that's when I'm gonna look up build guides, because you need them. It's you know, Supergiant's idea about difficulty is essentially the user chooses their difficulty, but that means that the difficulty curve is ridiculous because you're opting into it instead of opting, you know, out of it in a way, or, you know, you're opting into tuning it to your own preferences. Which, like, oh my god, again, when we get to Hades, like, that is the best difficulty slider ever made by mankind. There's only one issue with it that I take, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, thank you, David and Morgan, for joining us on this jaunt.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back next Monday, and, you know, depending on how the week goes, maybe earlier. I will be back anyway. I don't know if David and Morgan will have time to join me if I do an off stream time stuff. But one more update for the for chat, especially for Hard Sell, because I know you're a supporter and watcher. We are moving back to our fall schedule as of September. So in September, expect there to be more shows coming around, and also expect for, you know, a big Twitch update, basically.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I got to add all the shows back, change the scheduler, all that. Also, it may be worth mentioning that two other things for viewers quickly. One is that by the end of the month, we are going to do another Ludic Society soft episode, Serious Play special on Stockroach, which is an interesting little ARG. I won't spoil too much. That coverage is probably going to last a little while, but we're still kind of planning it. And the other thing that's worth mentioning right off the bat is that I think, are we doing D&DMs this week?
We will attempt.
Okay. Are we doing in-person D&DMs this week?
According to the fact that the Streamlab is not set up in a way that can stream, no.
Right. Okay, cool. So, but this week will be Thomas's last session with us for now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So
if we can't scrape together a session this week, it'll be like 2 weeks from now. Just be like, hey, just come back for one, but we'll see.
yeah. So if anybody watching the VOD or watching this enjoys D&D, then D&DMs is having kind of an important episode this this coming week. And Artsel, hell yeah, on the new D&D session. I hope it goes well. I'm sure we'll talk about it in VC or in Discord sometime. So, all right. Thank you guys for coming. I'm going to put us onto the end bumper, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to mute myself so I can do this, or deafen myself.
push closer, I see the spine of the world sparkle and shine like the inside. I see the spine of the world. You know it's mine, twisted and tied.